What is up, gamers? Welcome back to the Art of Games Media. This is Jax, your host from the Art of Games Media, and today we will talk about the item guide in Honor of Kings. Today, we will dive into the physical item details. What are the attributes? How does it help our heroes? Why is it important to know? Which items benefit range or melee heroes? Which items is suitable for attack speed or burst? In this series, we will also talk about how to counter other items, so stay tuned for that. So with that being said, let's all begin. As we begin, let's understand first what are the types of damage and defense we have in the game. For the damage, we have physical damage, magical damage, and real damage, also known as true damage. For defense, of course, we have physical defense and magical defense. Why do we need to take note of this? Knowing this gives us understanding in making sure we equip our heroes with the right line of items. There are heroes that deal magical damage, but belongs to a different lane. All heroes start with no equipment, and it is up to us what equipment we will be building. With the right items, our hero will be able to gain power spike, which is beneficial in getting the victory. By the end of this video, we will get to know which items are beneficial to ranged or melee heroes, to avoid building an item that will become a disadvantage to our hero. Now, let's get into the item list. Let's begin with the Axe of Torment. The Axe of Torment has 85 physical attack, 10% cooldown reduction, plus 500 health. The passive called Sever increases physical pierce or penetration by 68 to 180. Another passive called Maim, skills inflict a 10% slow on the first hero or enemy it hits for 3 seconds. Now this has a cooldown of 8 seconds. Next is the Eternity Blade, plus 110 physical attack and 20% critical rate or chance. Its passive is called Relentless, gain a 20% critical damage, and every 2 seconds the critical rate increases the critical damage by 1% up to 50%. Next up is the Shadow Ripper, plus 35% attack speed, plus 25% critical rate, plus 5% movement speed. Its passive is called Storm Strike, increases basic attack damage by 40. After a critical hit, it increases the attack speed by 20% and movement speed by 5% for 3 seconds. Next up is Doomsday, plus 60 physical attack, plus 30% attack speed, plus 10% lifesteal. Its passive is called Destruction. Basic attack deal extra physical damage equal to 8% of the target's current health, up to 80% damage to monsters or creeps. Now we go to Sparkforged Dagger. This has a 35% attack speed and 8% movement speed. Its passive is called Spark. Basic attack deal 40 to 82 extra magical damage. Every third basic attack, it unleashes a lightning that deals 100 to 420 magical damage. Then we have Blood Weeper. This has plus 100 physical attack, plus 25 physical lifesteal, plus 500 maximum health. Its passive is called Revive. When your own health is lower than 30%, you will recover 400 to 610 health in 5 seconds. This passive has a cooldown of 20 seconds. Then we have Daybreaker. This has plus 50 physical attack, plus 35% attack speed, plus 10% critical rate. This unique passive is called Sunder, plus 25% physical pierce or penetration, and 40% when this is used by ranged heroes. Another unique passive is called Daybreaker. The basic attack damage is increased by 50 or 100 when this is used by a ranged hero. Now we move on to Destiny. This has plus 60 physical attack and has 5% cooldown reduction. Its unique passive is called Dark Curtain. When receiving a fatal damage, instead of dying immediately, become invincible and gain 30% movement speed for 1 second. Now this is gonna be reduced to 0.05 seconds for ranged heroes, and this has a cooldown of 120 seconds. And before we move on, after learning the item details, we will dive into which heroes relies on attack speed or burst damage. By then, we can strategize which item is beneficial. If you find this video useful, please consider subscribing and comment which part of the video you like the most, or what other topics we can discuss. Now let's get back and continue with Master Sword. This has plus 80 physical attack, plus 20% critical hit chance, plus 500 maximum mana, plus 500 maximum health. Its unique passive is called Savagery. After using an ability or skill, it increases the movement speed by 12% for 2 seconds, and causes your next basic attack to deal an additional 80% physical damage. This has a cooldown of 3 seconds. Now we head on to Starbreaker. This has plus 80 physical attack, plus 10% cooldown reduction. Its passive is called Sunder. It is physical pierce plus 40%, or this is also called physical penetration. Next is Siegebreaker. This has plus 170 physical attack, and its passive is called Siegebreaker. This deals 30% extra damage to enemies when they are below 50% of their health. Next is Dreamforge Tempest. This has plus 65 physical attack, plus 25% attack speed, and its passive is called Sever. Basic attack hits grant 45 to 90 physical pierce for 3 seconds, and this can stack up to 2 times. Another passive is called Tempest. Using a skill grants a 35% attack speed boost for 5 seconds for the next 3 basic attacks, and this has a cooldown of 3 seconds. Now let's go to Deep Frost Siege. This has a 30% attack speed and 600 maximum health. Its passive is called Deep Frost. Basic attack reduces movement speed by 3%, and this effects last for 2 seconds and can go up to 5 stacks. At full stacks, the target will receive an extra 30% damage from basic attack orbs. Another passive is called Precision. Basic attacks deal an extra 60 to 130 physical damage. Next up is Mortal Punisher. This has plus 100 physical attack, plus 15% lifesteal, plus 15% attack speed. Its passive is called Revive. When your own health is lower than 30%, you will recover 400 to 610 health in 5 seconds. This passive has a 20-second cooldown. Another passive is called Imperil. When a basic attack or skill hits an enemy, it reduces their health recovery and lifesteal by 35% and lasts to 2.5 seconds. Then we have Demon's Bane. This has plus 90 physical attack, plus 100 magical defense, plus 500 maximum health. Its passive is called Anti-Mage. It increases magical defense by 60% up to 300. At this point, we will be getting into the clickable or active items. What does this do? How does this provide an advantage to us? How can we outplay our enemy using this? If you're still here, then thank you for taking the time. Again, if you find this video useful, please consider subscribing and commenting which part of the video you like the most, or what other topics we can discuss. Also, don't forget to share this along with your friends so we can all learn together and we can build a community where all of us can grow and support each other. As we all know, there are a lot of crowd controls in this game, so these active items gives us an advantage in terms of going around crowd control. Let's take the time to learn them one by one. Let's begin with the Dreamforge Kai Piercer. This has a plus 100 physical attack, plus 10 critical rate, plus 800 maximum health. Its passive is called Armor Breaker, where basic attack and skills reduces the target's physical defense by 10% for 2 seconds upon hit. The active skill is called Sky Piercer. It enhances the next basic attack, knocks the enemy back, and deals an extra 50% physical damage. Knockback is only effective for ranged heroes and has a cooldown of 30 seconds. Next up is Pure Sky. This has plus 100 physical attack, plus 10% cooldown reduction plus 500 maximum health. Its passive is called Maim. Skills inflict a 30% slow on the first enemy hero hit and reduces the damage they deal to you by 20% for 3 seconds. This has a cooldown of 8 seconds. The active skill is called Dispel. It grants a 35% damage reduction for 3 seconds. You can use the active spell even if you're crowd controlled. This has a cooldown of 90 seconds. Now we go to Sunpool. This has 25% attack speed, 10% critical rate, and 5% movement speed. Its passive is called Precision. Basic attack damage plus 50, plus 100 for ranged heroes. Its active is called Daybreak. Increases the basic attack range by 150 and movement speed by 40% for 5 seconds, during which attacks deal 30% more damage to one more enemy nearby. For melee heroes, only the movement speed bonus takes effect. This has a cooldown of 60 seconds. Second to the last is called Sun Chaser. It has 25% attack speed, 10% critical rate, 5% movement speed. Its passive is called Precision. Basic attack damage plus 50, plus 100 for ranged heroes. Its active is called Daybreak. Increases the basic attack range by 150 and movement speed by 20% for 5 seconds. For melee heroes, only the movement speed bonus takes in effect. It has a cooldown of 60 seconds. And finally, we have Sky Dome. This is plus 100 physical attack, plus 10% cooldown reduction, plus 500 maximum health. Its passive is called Maim. Skills inflict a 30% slow on the first enemy hero hit, and they reduce the damage they deal to you by 20% for 3 seconds. This has a cooldown of 8 seconds. Its active spell is called Dispel. Removes all crowd control effects, increases the damage reduction by 40% and movement speed by 30% with the terrain ignored for 3 seconds. Killing an enemy hero refreshes the effect duration. This has a cooldown of 90 seconds. Now we are equipped with the knowledge of the physical items, which enables us to know which item is good or what items won't work for a certain hero. Let's divide the classification of items for ranged and melee heroes. Let's look at the graph as we separate each item for ranged and melee heroes. So for the ranged heroes, we have the following items: Shadow Ripper, Eternity Blade, Doomsday, Sparkforged Dagger, Blood Weeper, Daybreaker, Dreamforged Tempest, and Deep Frost Siege, and lastly, Mortal Punisher. For the active items, we can go for Dreamforged, Sky Piercer, Sunpool, and Sun Chaser. For the melee heroes, we have the Axe of Torment, Eternity Blade, Blood Weeper, Destiny, Master Sword, Starbreaker, Siegebreaker, and Demon's Bane. For the active, we can go with Pure Sky and Sky Dome. Now let's look at it at another perspective. Which ranged hero relies on attack speed and burst? As we saw from how we divided our items, we can now ensure we equip our heroes with the correct line of items. But wait, there's more. Let's look at the Clash Lane or the melee heroes at a different perspective as well. Being a Clash Lane fighter or melee hero doesn't mean we only rely on damage. Along with these damage items, we also need to last in the clash and be able to protect our carry or mage, be able to sustain in providing room for our jungler in getting the objective, zoning the enemy without dying. With that being said, what defense item should be equipped? How can we provide map control while protecting the lane we are assigned to? Stay tuned because that is what we will learn on the next video. Now we reach the end of the video. I hope you learned something that will be useful in your daily play. Stay tuned for our next video about magical items, defense items, roaming, and jungling items. If you haven't subscribed, please feel free to do so. Comment below what other topics you want to know or what struck you the most. Please share so we can make more content like this. Thank you for watching. This is Jax, your host from the Art of Games Media. See you next video.